Spain's future queen faces her test. She stands at the center of this architecture of meaning, not alone, never alone, but singular in consequence. For Princess Leonor of Spain, the future does not arrive as possibility. It arrives as responsibility. The institution around her is older than memory, yet acutely aware of the present moment. Spain's monarchy has survived abdications, transitions, reinvention. It now survives on precision. This is the living thread of continuity. Not sentimental, not negotiable. At first glance, the image is calm. Measured appearances, carefully timed speeches, rituals performed with almost clinical accuracy. But calm, here, is not peace. It is control. Within 2 minutes, the essential misunderstanding must be confronted. Many believe the test ahead is personal. That the weight lies in emotion, youth, or private resolve. It does not. The true test is institutional. Whether the crown can endure scrutiny without conceding authority. Whether continuity can remain convincing in an age that demands explanation. Continuity is not abstract here, it is embodied in visible presence. Every appearance reassures some, unsettles others. Every absence is interpreted. The United States reads these signals pragmatically. Stability in Spain reinforces reliability in alliances. Uncertainty introduces noise. In the United Kingdom, the analysis is quieter, sharper. There, memory has taught that the crown is strongest when it resists the urge to explain itself. Canada and Australia watch relevance, not romance. If the symbol falters, distance becomes detachment. Germany watches coherence. Always coherence. None of this is spoken aloud. Institutions rarely speak their fears. At 5 minutes, the question returns, heavier now. Not because collapse is imminent, but because pressure is cumulative. The crown today does not fall in moments of rebellion. It erodes through narrative drift. Through the slow widening gap between what institutions are and what audiences expect them to be. Here lies the deeper mystery, emerging around minute 8. There are conversations we will never hear. Boundaries explained not as rules, but as realities. Expectations framed as inevitabilities. Silence becomes policy. What is unresolved is not action, but timing. How long can restraint appear voluntary? At what point does discipline resemble confinement? The institution understands this tension well. That is why preparation intensifies invisibly. More symbolism, more presence, more signals of readiness. At the midpoint, a strain begins to surface, faint, but unmistakable. The calendar tightens. The margin for error narrows. This is how crisis forms at the highest level. Not as chaos, but as compression. At 14 minutes, the point of no return is not marked by a decision. It is marked by awareness. Once an heir fully understands what cannot be changed, every future choice carries irreversible weight. This is the moment institutions fear most. Not defiance, but clarity. From here forward, the crown must assume that every step is precedent. That every deviation, however small, rewrites expectation. By 19 minutes, the future threat is visible, carefully contained, safely unnamed. A symbolic test that will eventually require alignment. Not between desire and duty, but between modern visibility and ancient restraint. Political systems can adapt. Symbols must endure. And endurance requires sacrifice that is rarely acknowledged publicly. As the final minutes approach, the architecture remains unchanged. The rituals continue. The silence holds. The phrase lingers not because the crown is failing, but because it is being tested. What happens next will not announce itself. History rarely does. It will arrive quietly, in alignment or fracture, in continuity preserved, or redefined. The institution stands ready. It always does. And at the edge of what comes next, Spain waits, aware that the future has not yet decided how it will be carried. Morning reveals what night conceals. Not vulnerability, but structure. Schedules unfold with exacting discipline. Ceremonial briefings. Institutional choreography refined over generations. Nothing improvised. Nothing accidental. For Princess Leonor of Spain, the day is not arranged around personal rhythm. It is aligned to continuity. This is how succession is stabilized before it is ever announced. Through repetition. Through visibility that reassures without explaining. The monarchy does not wait for crisis to prepare. Preparation is its response. Every appearance is designed to transmit the same quiet message. The system is intact. The future is accounted for. National identity is woven into these rituals. Uniforms signal allegiance not to an individual, but to the state itself. Language is chosen carefully, never emotive, never defensive. Because emotion invites interpretation, and interpretation weakens authority. From abroad, the signals are read instantly. In the United States, predictability is the measure of trust. A future sovereign who adheres to form reassures markets, alliances, and diplomatic balance. In the United Kingdom, restraint is recognized as survival instinct. There, the Crown learned long ago that visibility without control is a liability. Canada and Australia observe relevance with quiet calculation. Their connection to monarchy endures only while the symbol feels necessary, not nostalgic. Germany watches coherence. Always coherence. An institution that appears internally aligned commands respect, even without affection. These judgments are never coordinated. Yet they converge. This convergence is the pressure few acknowledge. Because Spain's monarchy no longer exists in isolation. It exists within a global expectation of stability. And stability leaves little room for deviation. The second misunderstanding now dissolves. Many assume that modern institutions bend more easily. That history has softened their demands. That personal autonomy has expanded. In reality, symbolic institutions tighten as scrutiny increases. The less power they exercise, the more precision they require. Presence becomes governance. Behavior becomes reassurance. Silence becomes strategy. This is why personal life narrows quietly. Not through prohibition, but through alignment. Options are not removed, they simply stop being viable. The Crown does not forbid. It renders incompatible. And incompatibility is more effective than command. This is the deeper test taking shape, not dramatic, not visible. Whether discipline can continue to appear voluntary. Whether sacrifice can remain unnamed. Nothing has broken. Nothing has been challenged. Yet the margins are thinner. Because the more perfectly the role is performed, the more costly deviation becomes. The institution understands this arithmetic well. It has survived by mastering it. For now, continuity holds. The image convinces. The system remains in control. But beneath that control, time advances. And time does not recognize institutions. It only tests them. The third pressure arrives quietly, from observation rather than edict. Not within Spain, but through reflection, the world watching, interpreting every gesture. For Princess Leonor of Spain, visibility has become responsibility. Every movement, every pause, every expression carries meaning far beyond intention. Not personal meaning, institutional meaning. The crown is not just inherited, it is constantly measured. The true test is how perception intersects with reality. What appears as composure abroad is read as assurance in Washington. Stability in Spain signals reliability for U.S. policy and transatlantic alliances. In London, memory sharpens caution. Lessons of one generation warn the next that affection cannot outrank authority. Canada and Australia measure relevance. A symbolic monarchy must remain vital to maintain its distant legitimacy. Germany observes coherence. Emotion is irrelevant, consistency commands respect. None of this pressure is announced. It is understood. And understanding shapes behavior. The crown's training intensifies, not visibly, but strategically. Controlled gestures, measured spontaneity, the mastery of appearances. This is defensive architecture. Preparedness becomes ritual. Ritual becomes reassurance. Modern crises rarely arrive as rupture. They accumulate silently, through expectation, scrutiny, and the narrowing space between what is permissible and what is desired. The true threat is not rebellion, but narrative drift. Once interpretation overtakes intention, authority becomes reactive. And reaction is weakness. In these quiet moments, the weight of expectation becomes perceptible. Awareness grows. The role will never loosen, accommodation will always stop short of freedom. The institution offers meaning, but not choice. Every relationship, every attachment, every personal decision is evaluated not for emotion, but for alignment. Does it reinforce continuity? Does it invite scrutiny? Does it introduce risk? Silence is policy. Absence is reassurance. Discretion is governance. The system has learned from history. Institutions survive through patience and precision, not drama. Yet pressure accumulates. The more perfectly the role is performed, the narrower the margin for error becomes. And history shows that when margins vanish, reckoning follows, quietly, inevitably, and without warning. For now, the image remains intact. The crown continues its slow, precise passage through time. But the questions, invisible, persistent, have already begun to shape the future. Time itself becomes the next pressure. Not sudden, not dramatic. It accumulates quietly, relentlessly. For Princess Leonor of Spain, each year sharpens scrutiny. What once seemed like preparation now narrows into expectation. Postponement becomes interpretation. Delay invites speculation. The institution responds with subtle adjustment. Calendars tighten, appearances multiply, symbolic responsibilities expand, not to grant freedom, but to demonstrate readiness. Readiness reassures allies, markets, and global partners that continuity is inevitable. In Washington, observers measure stability. In London, memory warns against abruptness. Canada and Australia assess relevance. Germany evaluates coherence. None of these judgments are public, yet all influence behavior. The Crown must maintain authority without explanation. Its presence is governance. Its silence, strategy. Private life is no longer private. Every choice carries symbolic weight. Every relationship is scrutinized, not for affection, but for alignment. The Crown does not forbid love or personal connection. It renders some paths incompatible with responsibility. The institution understands. The most dangerous pressures arrive not in rebellion, but in inevitability. Life continues. Time passes. Choices must be made. And when inevitability collides with constraint, the test is revealed. For now, continuity holds. The image remains intact. The system projects certainty, but the margins are thinner than ever. And the longer preparation continues without resolution, the sharper the cost of deviation becomes. History shows that when an heir reaches this stage, the next trial is never theoretical. It is personal. It is unavoidable. It is coming. The Crown remains. But what it will require to endure is already demanding its price. The corridors fall silent as evening returns. Stone endures. Ritual endures. Institutions endure. For Princess Leonor of Spain, this is the ultimate truth of inheritance. The Crown is not neutral. It is never forgiving. It demands readiness for consequence, whether seen or unseen. Every day until now has been calibration. Training mistaken for youth. Silence mistaken for simplicity. Patience mistaken for freedom. Now the shape of the future is visible, not in a decision, but in the narrowing of possibility. Spain does not seek perfection, it seeks continuity that feels inevitable. A presence that reassures without explanation. A sovereign who embodies stability without inviting inspection. Global eyes remain attentive. In the United States, steadiness measures trust. In the United Kingdom, memory weighs decisions carefully. Canada and Australia gauge relevance. Germany observes coherence, unaffected by sentiment. No declaration is required. Control is measured by what is withheld, by what remains unseen, by what is quietly set aside. The Crown is inherited. That part is fixed. What is not fixed is the cost of carrying it forward. A moment will come when alignment is tested. Not between desire and duty, but between the individual and the institution that must outlast her. When that moment arrives, there will be no ceremony. No vote. No public reckoning. Only continuation, or fracture. The phrase lingers because the test is not over. The story is not finished. The institution endures. History waits. And somewhere between silence and inevitability, the future, undecided, uncertain, quietly watches.